Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
And welcome back, everyone. Good to have you here. If you found us, there's probably a reason that you did. Maybe you were searching certain words. Maybe you're looking for answers. Maybe trying to figure things out. Today, we are focusing on this thing called shadow work. You may have heard those terms before. Not really 100% sure what the words actually mean. Or maybe you are connecting it with maybe some healing and moving your life forward. It's all about that. We're going to do a deep dive on shadow work today with her. She's an amazing psychologist and has insight all the time, has written some amazing books, which include shadow work. Dr. Ann Creekmore is back with us. How are you doing today?
Great, Steve. How are you?
Better since I discovered what shadow work is and have been doing the work, I would say, for the past easily almost 4 years.
Nice. Excellent.
Yeah.
So important.
The work is never done.
Exactly. Layers. So they called it, like in therapy, peeling the layers of the onion. You just keep peeling.
Exactly right. And every day you realize a little bit more here and there. Once it's on your radar, once you're truly in tune with yourself. How do you define shadow work?
Well, I was going to ask you, because you said you've been doing it for several years, and I think that's wonderful. I can give my little synopsis, but would you like to share what you mean by it? So I make sure I'm on the same page with you, what you're working at,
So if I were to define what shadow work is, it would be, the analogy would be the shadow is essentially the child within you. And, a lot of times if you have a small child, you might walk around and say, yeah, it's my shadow right there. As they follow you around, it could even be a dog, but it's your shadow. It's following you around as a shadow does. What is following us around? Those situations, events from our childhood, they call it 0 to 7, mostly, or predominantly, what we internalize as children, what we thought life is about.
Right.
We're still living that. That shadow follows us around all the time. What is shadow work? Recognizing that, working on maybe healing those things from our childhood so that we can move forward as adults and maybe keep the shadow in check. Or I don't want to say eliminate the shadow. I don't even know if that's possible. But that's my definition. How would you surmise it?
I agree. I mean, it's your inner child work. Often I think it's associated, it's kind of a Jungian. Carl Jung, shared the concept originally, I believe, of your shadow, but kind of maybe a part of yourself that's a darker part that you're not conscious of. It's more unconscious. And you want to, maybe some emotional wounds that occurred that need to be healed, or parts of you that hold emotional wounds that you want to kind of make the unconscious conscious, become aware of what you're holding and be able to heal it and release it, kind of do your inner child work, reach into your inner child. Or inner children. I mean, you can have more than one. So people say, I have my shadows,
I never even thought of it that way. Wow, that's another one, that takes a moment to process there. Wow. I am thinking.
Yeah, you take your time. Your thoughts.
I never thought of it that way, that there could be multiple children, i.e. multiple shadows. Now, how would that be? How would you define that? I think of it as, the inner child, that's you as a child, excuse me, which we're still living with. Your child, the inner child is still there with all those perceptions, values that child picked up in childhood, but we're still living that as adults right now. If it was shadows, how would you define it, different ones? Or are you saying that each one of those shadows is a different situation and scenario that you react to as an adult?
Well, I was thinking about complex PTSD And clients that I've had have actually referred to kind of their different people parts inside as their shadows instead of just their shadow, their one inner child. Because if you're as a child under the age of 7, if you undergo chronic, kind of trauma, stress, dysfunction that you mentally feel you can't cope with, emotionally can't cope with, then you may use the defense mechanism of dissociation, which is when that ability is like a primitive defense mechanism where you mentally kind of self-hypnotize as a child because children are so able to, be creative and imagine, that their teddy bear is real or whatever. They can mentally self-hypnotize, go away, and let another part of their brain handle a certain situation, usually starting with a trauma situation. But then after that happens and they learn how to dissociate to cope, and they put the walls around that trauma and it works well, but it's kind of amnesia holding it in a space that they don't have to deal with the pain. Then they kind of learned a technique to handle most stressors. And so every time there's a stressor comes around, like you start school, well, that's stressful. There's a bunch of children, there's a teacher, you got to follow the teacher, mentally go away. That's stressful. All of a sudden you get another part of your brain, it's a student part. And in a sense, in that way, you have more than one shadow because your mind has kind of worked creatively, adaptively by dissociating and creating different little parts of helpers that you're in different parts of your brain. And so that's where you get in the idea of more than one shadow because you have other different, a variety of little shadows in there that you can, work on healing or bringing together and understanding and healing. Mm-hmm.
It's a wonder to me with all the things that our shadow is presenting. I don't want to say dealing with because the shadow doesn't know. The shadow's just a kid. What do I know? I'm just being a kid.
Stays at an age half the time, doesn't grow up, and it's not in the present.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like frozen in time.
Exactly. Can be. Mm-hmm.
But it's following you around. To me, it's almost amazing that we can even function in life, given a lot of the things that the shadow brings us, right?
Right. Because it's kind of unconscious. And then it's almost like at some points can be self-sabotaging. It was a coping mechanism adaptively as a child. You either repressed that part of yourself or you dissociated. And then now you have it in different parts of self, but they don't even feel like they're kind of their own independent sense of selves. And a lot of it's just unconscious and it often isn't up with the present reality. It's still stuck in the past and needs to be brought up to the present and needs to be healed so that it can be enjoy the current present because you're not back in a situation of abuse or bullying or some kind of thing in childhood, but you may get triggered and go into that shadow self and react that way or kind of think about the current situation as if it was like that past situation and be overreacting emotionally to something triggered.
So why don't we pick or give an example of what one of the shadows could be, what the shadow child is holding on to, and then maybe kind of walk the journey on how we work with that as adults doing shadow work.
Yes, do a shadow work. Well, I know you're familiar with the shadow work and you've been doing a lot of the shadow work. So you can tell me how this fits with one way that I would do it. If people have had trauma very early on and complex PTSD, it might be to like when a person feels they're out of sorts or kind of blended with their shadow up to the front, and it's not really how they think about things, but it's what they're going through and feeling. Might just start there with an internal family systems approach. That's a therapy model that works really well for this, where you kind of say, well, you felt this way, and let's go back to that. What happened this week and what you were thinking, what thoughts you were having, what memories are coming up, what feelings do you have, emotions, what body sensations, what's it like? So you really kind of identify that part, you know, that what you blended with, that's come up to the unconscious, kind of blending right with the present. And then you ask that part of you, usually inner child work, you kind of ask your inner child or your inner children, child of children, to sit next to you in a way so you can have a dialogue with that part of you and really get to know that part of you. And to find out, like, when did you first come, and why did you come? How are you helping me? What was the situation, and what did you come to help with? And then dialogue about what the current situation is that you're in, and it's not the same, and help them get up to a level of to heal beyond that. They did a hard job, it was a tough job, somebody had to do it and they did it, but you're not in the tough job, you're not at home living with parents, for example, there's no abuse or whatever going on currently. They can, for me as a therapist, I could also do age progression hypnosis, because if that part was 2 or that part was 7 or that part whatever, you're going to work with that part, do the role play back and forth, the dialoguing, finding out, and maybe mentoring them up to the present. But if they only are working from a 7-year-old part of their brain, in a sense, or a 2-year-old, how it's really, you don't really get to start to think more possibilities and less concretely till about age 11. So you've got to almost age progress that part up with a little hypnosis, which is real easy, because if people have these parts, that's what they do for a living themselves. They're always self-hypnotizing to cope with stress.
Yep.
And so it's not that they can't do that easily, but they can age up like 3 years, like at a setting, 3 minutes, 1 minute each, once a week or whatever. And then when they get to about age 11, you can really kind of talk to that part and say, hey, that was really tough, but now think about, there's other possibilities, not concretely in that anymore. And they can really start to mature and flourish, because their brains can consider intellectually possibilities that they couldn't before age 11. So that would be a little piece of it, but I think the role play would be more, or an inner role play, or it could be an outer role play. I've actually sometimes say one person has one shadow, right, and didn't have trauma much as a child. So they have an inner child, of course, and they identify the inner child, and you have that one sit next to them, say on the couch, the therapy couch, and they can go back and forth talking, doing the role play, like, hey, I'm adult me, comes into the office for help, but now I'm with little me, I'm with, to say adult Steve talking to little Steve, younger Steve, and having that conversation. And like, how are you feeling? Why did you feel that way? What was happening? And helping them to say, well, look at this, we are here and it's a different situation. You're not stuck in that anymore. And you can do things differently. What would you like to do? Do a healing dialogue technique, role play technique to heal the inner wounding, the inner child.
So a couple of questions here.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
In hypnotherapy, and the many different modalities to do this, one of them is regular therapy. And
exactly.
Kind of figuring it out, what your childhood was like and what you might be experiencing now. And I call that connecting the dots, figuring out, oh, that's why I do what I do, because of that.
Exactly. That's getting triggered, and I'm reacting that way because it's bringing this up, and it's kind of like a fantasy camp in front of our reality that we're experiencing. We're projecting out our inner stuff onto the current circumstance.
And what you said is what I did, and it was very impactful a few years ago during hypnotherapy. I confronted myself as a child under hypnosis. It was so interesting, emotional, wild. Even when I talk about it today, it kind of just moves me when I say that, I said to myself as a child, it was like watching a movie of myself.
Yes.
Reassuring myself, saying to the child, I got you. You never have to worry. I always have your back. I'm always right here for you. We're together. I got you. Okay.
Exactly. Doing the healing of the wound.
Yeah. So
Ex-
I recently heard this, Anne, that it's good to talk to yourself. So you drive it in the car, have a
Absolutely.
conversation with yourself. You're at home. Now, let's factor out anybody around. So you don't have to worry about that. And talk to yourself, maybe about a current situation, maybe what you're feeling, all of that. Uh,
Absolutely.
Somebody told me it's actually a sign of intelligence, but it's also a sign of helping you move forward and doing shadow work. I did try this the other day.
Uh-huh.
I gotta say, it was a little odd. Like it was a little, it wasn't as easy as it sounds because you have to confront yourself. It's like you're
Uh-huh.
having a conversation with somebody else, but it's actually with yourself. But it's very personal things about
Mhm.
how you're feeling, how you're going to deal with the situation, but you're getting it out. And I would think that that's impactful. What are your thoughts on just talking to yourself?
Absolutely. Well, I think we're always kind of talking to ourselves. It's just that we
Uh,
we need to realize we are talking to ourselves. Remember, it's not so much what the experience is we're having, but what we're saying to ourselves about the experience that creates our feelings. And then how we behave is based on what we're feeling, and then that turns into the outcome based on our behaviors. So it's very important to become aware of your inner voice or voices, your shadows, and what you are saying to yourself, and then try to bring it to the highest level of positive mindedness. Help yourself, help that part of you or that inner voice talk positively, because what we say to ourselves will create how we react. And if we're feeling negative, we're going to react negatively. It's not going to improve any situation. So we want to be aware of our inner voice. And are we giving ourselves positive messages that encourage us and help us, cope and move forward? Are we saying negative things that are making us, feel bad and not cope?
mm.
And then where does that come from? The inner child work and the shadow work would be really go deep with that and get and understand that the origins of that self talk.
I love that you clarified what I said because this is the baseline. I should have said it that the shadow is always talking to you. So when I said, yeah, it's a kind of awkward to verbally talk to yourself when you're alone, your shadow's doing it all the time.
Right.
You might not, because it's in your subconscious, you might be hearing it, but not really hearing it, but you are hearing it because you
Correct.
react to it.
Correct. Exactly. Exactly.
Mm.
So this is just making your unconscious processes conscious so that you can be aware and control them, because there are things you can control in life. I mean, you control your thoughts, your purpose, your priorities, your behaviors. But if it's all subconscious, you're kind of getting, you're not really the pilot, right? You're not really piloting because you're not, really hearing all the data that's there that you need to have to be able to control your life and be and take charge to make it the positive one you want to have.
What are some other things that we should be mindful of, or even would help us better understand this whole thing called shadow work?
Well, I was wondering if there was anything. Just what do you have anything else that you would like to share about it? Or any specific question that you have as far as the shadow work? I mean, I think it's something. All right, to add, I think journaling is very helpful.
Mm,
Journaling always speeds up therapy because that's helping you to get to your thoughts, or like it's taking that time, like you're saying, to be aware of what am I feeling, what am I thinking. Let me do journaling. That's how you access that information. So I would say that would be a good thing to do, to journal, to go to therapy, and or life coach, whatever, to really start to focus in, um, and maybe try to identify specific beliefs that you have, limiting beliefs that certain things happen at certain ages that you kind of can hold as defaults that you go to, just to
mm.
become more aware of your own unconscious and bring it to consciousness.
All of the things that we deal with, I don't want to say all, but would you say the majority of those things are coming from the shadow?
Yeah, I think a lot. It's very important to be aware of that and to take the time to do that shadow work. And there's another form of hypnosis, regression, not positive suggestion hypnosis, like I'm going to quit smoking. I can, or whatever the positive, I'm not feeling anxious. But the regression is another way to go back. Sounds like you might have done that to some
So
degree.
interesting. Let's go there.
Okay.
So um, I actually did and I don't know if this is what you're referring to. I've done hypnotherapy back to childhood,
Exactly. Hmm.
but I've also done a past life
That's life
regression.
regression. Hmm.
Were you going there
I
in that
can go.
reference?
Yes, I mean, because sometimes, go ahead though.
Okay. Yeah, I was didn't know what to expect. I'm like, why not? So during the session, it went back progressively from now to my childhood and didn't see anything that I wasn't aware of in my childhood. Maybe just certain images coming up and maybe they were more definitive, because it's been a while since I had done hypnotherapy. Then we
Hmm.
went to, and I'm gonna go in steps here. Then we went to me before I was born in my mother's
Life
womb.
or life, they call it. Hmm.
Yes. And the hypnotherapist said, "What was your mother feeling at that time?" So, I'm in my head and I'm thinking what she might be feeling. But then I got into my feelings and
Hmm.
I know what she was going through, based on what I heard in terms of my parents fighting and things like that. It was taking place at that time.
Right.
Um, but what came up for me is my mother thinking that everything is going to be okay. But it's easy just to say that. For me to say that, I felt it. I
Mm,
felt what she might have felt. So now,
nice.
now let's go back to, a past life. I saw one, me,
Hmm.
saw myself on a farm, saw the barn, the horse, all of that. I,
Uh-huh.
I've never been, I don't know why, but it's not like I'm a farmer. It just that's what
Right.
came.
Right.
And I knew that I had a wife, but she wasn't around. I didn't see her. I'm like, all right. But it was weird as the regression continued another few minutes. Like I'm feeling like, where's she at? And then, bam, it hit me. She passed away.
Oh, wow. Mm.
And this is what makes me believe that this was real. I
Hmm.
felt the passing,
Mm.
like deep, like
Mm.
crying.
Yes, grieving.
And then
Yes.
shortly thereafter, then I saw the images of her in bed just slightly before passing, me next to her, the room, the wood panel. I saw it all. And
Right.
again, I felt it. I felt it. Like how, if that wasn't real, why would I even be feeling it? It's like,
Right.
it's like
Right.
watching TV. You see somebody in the same
Exactly.
situation. You might have empathy for them, but you're not going to like really feel it. Fast forward a little bit further in the regression. Now I move away. I'm in a town. Somehow I got elevated in the town. I don't know what it was, whether I got elected to a position. I don't do politics, but I was something of
Hmm.
stature. And
Hmm.
I was with a new partner or wife. And as I'm speaking to people, I can see her looking at me with pride.
Aw, isn't that wonderful?
But it was real. It
Yes.
was like, I
Yes.
was like, I can feel you looking at me like, oh, this is, well, I'm about 65% believing that that was a past life because
Absolutely.
I felt it. If I didn't, I'd be like, whatever. Your mind's making it up, maybe pulling it from a movie or something like that. I got nothing except that feeling. Can't take it away. Like,
Absolutely. Well, we talked about this before where energy, the classic principle is energy is neither created or destroyed. It is just transformed.
right.
And, you know, um, that would be your energy, continuing in these different areas. UVA here in Virginia, University of Virginia, has a department called the Department of Perceptual Studies, and they study one of the many things because they combine spirituality and science is that particular focus of that department, but they actually do go, overseas, and they meet with different people that have had experiences, and meet with children, particularly, like maybe they're 2 years old. They have I can't remember the name of the ship, but there was one little boy who was 2, and he remembered being on one of the Navy ships that exploded or whatever in a previous life, and he could tell them everything, for example, about the name of the ship, what it was like, his name. And this is like, how does he know this stuff? I mean, he's 2, but
yes.
You may have heard of that, so they do study that. And then in regression, some people, Bridie Murphy, I think, was the one who really brought it out, where, remember, he was doing regular hypnosis and going back to some critical instancy that could affect you, but they were actually going back to previous lives. Their energy, their fingerprint is just continuing to emerge. And I know something like probably 65% of the population is religious, would believe that in the reincarnation, and other Christian might think, well, we're going to go do more of our work on the other side, because who's really just like God, right? We're going to cross over and be just perfect angels. Maybe we'll work more on healing and being our best angelics, great ourselves there. Or maybe we're going to come back and just keep doing karma according to others, and keep working on being our, best selves. But let's just do it now. Let's become our best selves now.
In closing here, and I just remembered this as you brought that up, in the past life regression, I saw connection to things I deal with now in that past life. There was connection.
As is your fingerprint, right?
Yeah, it's remarkable.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah, so there's a lot you can do.
It's pretty wild.
Pretty wild. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Well, thank you for the inspiration, because as you're speaking, I'm thinking of these other things along the way. And this is how you help people do shadow work and so much more. And of course, a lot of this is in your book, Love Yourself, Love Your Life. Best way to find you, psychologytoday.com. Just do a search for your name, Dr. Ann Creekmore.
Perfect. That will work. Yeah.
Wonderful talking with you today. Thank you for all the insight, and for me, on the journey working with the shadow, just validation of what's actually going on here. I really appreciate it.
Oh yeah, thank you so much for sharing all
Thanks,
that,
Ann.
everybody.
Yep, we'll catch up next time. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.